Are you white? Me too. Kind of. Muscle black. Do you feel outraged by racial injustice, but you're not sure what to do? Like, do you think that, well, maybe if I did something, it would be misinterpreted or it wouldn't make a difference? If so, this video is for you. I've thought those things myself, and so I've asked my friends to come and talk to us, and by the end of this video, you're gonna have 3 ways that you can respond right now as a white person to racial injustice. Keep watching and you're gonna find out how. What's up guys, I'm Royce and this is Becca and you're watching our channel, Royce and Becca. Thanks so much for tuning in today. This is a channel where we normally talk about marriage and family life, but today I want to talk about something a little different and discuss a little bit how we process and look at racially fueled events. By the end, you'll have some practical ways that you can respond. I've asked our friends, Nikki and David Lerner, to come hang out with us today, and they're gonna talk to us a little bit about the positive role that white people can play in times of racial injustice and in racially fueled events. Nikki is a culture coach, an artist, and a speaker who helps people move from monocultural to multicultural in work and life. If you're white and you want to do something, this video is for you. Before we jump into Nikki's practical advice, I want to have a second and just have a conversation about how racially fueled events impact each of us, and maybe give you guys watching a chance to think about how it impacts you, because honestly, each one of our perspectives is pretty different. And I think it's really healthy to have dialogue with people from different perspectives and to do that in a loving way. And I think that brings us closer to understanding. And so there's a series of questions we're gonna ask each other, and then we'll move into Nikki's practical advice. The first question that I think I just kind of wanna ask all of us is, when a racially fueled event happens, what is your response? Like, what's your gut reaction?
I'll go first. I think I get like angry right at first. And then I think I don't really know, like I don't want to react. Sometimes I'm afraid of how it could be interpreted by my Black friends. I don't want to hurt the situation more, or be misunderstood. And so I think I just wait, but I also care. So I sometimes don't know what to do.
Just my initial reaction is usually just a gut punch. Because it's happening again. You wish that you, and by you, I mean the world, would make progress on this stuff. But it just seems to keep happening. And it's easy to feel kind of powerless to do anything about it. Because, I mean, people talk about systemic stuff all the time, but I'm just me over here sitting on my couch, you know, scrolling through Facebook or watching the news or whatever and seeing this happen again. And what am I supposed to do about this?
I feel sad and frustrated and angry and hopeful and empowered and determined all at the same time. Like there's no or. It all exists in the same space.
Talk about the hopeful part.
Yeah.
The hope part is, I know this might sound strange, but I still have a firm belief in human beings when they are at their best are pretty incredible. And again, it's not like an either or. It's not like, you know, for 3 days I'm mad and then 3 days I'm hopeful. Or when it first happens, I'm like, oh, I'm so hopeful, you know, and then I'm mad. You know, it's weird. Like it all exists at the same time. So even though I am hopeful, I'm also extremely discouraged at the same time.
And I think you kind of point out something interesting about having more than one feeling at a time. I think we feel maybe wrong, or I could feel wrong about like, oh, well, I need to feel a certain way. I think it's helpful when we can just allow ourselves, well, these are the feelings that I'm feeling. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. that's just the reality. So if you have more than one feeling, that's okay.
Well, and the hard part is that we don't give each other a whole lot of space to have multiple feelings, because the way that we talk about these things, and most things, honestly, in the country is very binary. Yeah. We don't give space for the in-between. And you certainly can't process on social media, right? Because again, it's binary. It's a one-dimensional sort of tool. So you're judged for the feelings of your process, no matter where you are. If you're angry, you're judged. If you're sad, you're judged. Like you literally can't win.
Right. And too, if you speak, you're judged, and if you don't speak, you're judged.
Absolutely.
So it's like this.
It's constant. Yeah, it's constant.
Sounds like we need a little more love. When I look at these events and I see them in the news, I think my traditional response has just been to kind of like bury my head in the sand, because even though my dad is black and my mom is white, like they were divorced, so I didn't grow up in black culture. It's all white. I just didn't have to deal with the things that people in the black community have to deal with. I'm not ever afraid of being pulled over by the police. No one's ever following me around in a grocery store or whatever, worried about what I'm going to do. I've kind of like hid behind my whiteness because I look white. And I don't feel black enough to add something to the conversation. I don't feel like I've suffered. I mean, I haven't suffered. And so I'm like, well, what can I add that will move the conversation forward? So yeah, I just kind of stick my head in the sand. But recently I was having a conversation with some other black men, and I realized that, we all have something that we can contribute to the conversation. And I'm realizing that, and that's really the main motivation for me for making this video. So that's kind of how I've traditionally responded, kind of hid my head in the sand, but now I'm trying to take a little more active response, respond in love and frustration. Yeah. So the next question that I want to ask us is, what do you grieve in situations like this?
I think I grieve relationship, in the sense that, like, I have black friends, I have white friends. I've got, like, the tension that could come up maybe between my black friends when stuff like this happens. If I don't participate or if I don't say anything, there could be, like, I don't know, blockage.
Like, why aren't you saying anything?
Yeah. I grieve the injustice on human life. I think that's real. I grieve the process moving forward, and maybe that it's my place in our society, whatever that is, of, like, you think it's farther than it is, like progress maybe is farther than it is, and then something happens and you realize, like, you can't deny it when it's, like, in your face. Grieving that, like, oh, I thought maybe we're farther along in this, and not even. Like, it feels like we're not even close.
Yeah, I feel that a lot, too. That's one of my biggest... grievance isn't the right word. But yeah, that's one of the biggest areas that I grieve in, is just... I've read a lot. I'm a bit of a history buff, and I've read a lot about the civil rights movement. For the progress that we have made, and it's not like we haven't made any progress, but good Lord, it feels like we should be so much further along than we are. And it's incredibly frustrating. Because then, for me to have to be concerned for my brother-in-law and for my wife and for, that whole side of the family and my brothers and sisters from church and just everybody that I'm in relationship with, just feeling this sense of dread and praying to God that it's not going to be them next time, and it's not an easy thing to process because it doesn't ever go away.
I think I grieve on two different levels. First is the kind of on the personal relational level that I think I grieve, even particularly people I'm in relationship with, that just will not choose to understand. That's a huge source of of grief. I mean, can you imagine if somebody lost a relative or lost something and their first response is, well, did they smoke?
Yeah.
Do you know? Well, maybe they shouldn't have smoked, so sorry. Right. That's how it feels on the other end. And essentially you, without asking more questions and making more statements and more assumptions, you actually call people you're in a relationship with a liar. Like you tell them they're lying to you.
Right.
So I grieve that. I grieve the lack of openness. The other side of that is the systemic side of that. I mean, can you imagine trying to fix something, a problem in your life or in, the foundation of your house or, something like that, and never, ever being able to really fix it? It just keeps spinning. Like, I'm not sure what other evidence do you need that like serious change needs to happen. And it's not like we're like, this is an isolated incident and whew, glad we got that out the way. Right. No, it's going to happen again. Right. And not just once. It's gonna continue. And we know it. So those are the places I think more than anything that I grieve during these times.
The grief that I feel the biggest is that I can't identify in that suffering. Like, I can empathize, but I don't feel like, I don't own that suffering. So I feel like disconnected from it. And I grieve that, I think. People in general, doesn't matter the topic, are really quick to make a statement. But they're not as quick to ask questions. And I think it's not wrong to have an opinion. And it's not wrong to make a statement, but I grieve that the statements are coming first and not the questions.
Well, and the hard part about compassion, I think, is, I've never actually said this before, but I think compassion requires acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in order to have the compassion, you have to acknowledge that you see what has happened. But if you acknowledge that you see, many people can see that as, well, but if I see, it means I condone something. But they're not the same things. Acknowledgement and condoning something are two completely separate things. But just to acknowledge, I see something, and it's really okay to feel it. Like you're supposed to feel it, right? And then you can develop an opinion later. But in the moment, and that's, I think, the missing step from a lot of these conversations is that, to lean into the best part of who you are as a person and just show compassion, because you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you guys is, what questions do you have? What would you want to ask each other? Or when an event like this occurs, what questions occur inside of yourself?
Is there a right way to safely ask questions? I think some of it, too, is me being humble and being okay to look like I'm wrong and don't understand and naive, maybe. And that's hard for me to do. Maybe any human to do. Is there a right way to ask questions or to have compassion, verbalize compassion, show compassion? Is it too late? Sometimes I've thought that. Is it too late to speak up or to have compassion or to reach out? Or is there a right way? Maybe there's not. And maybe being humble and admitting that. That's what I texted to my friend. I'm like, I don't know if this is what you need, but I love you and I care.
Well, let me just tell you, it's never too late because there's never an end date. Like, I wish there was. I wish there was like, yeah, girl, we passed that, I wish that was the case. But like, no, actually, it's just ongoing. So I don't think you're ever too late.
It's hard because what I want to ask them is there something I can do? But it's hard to feel comfortable asking that question because I don't want them to have to tell me what to do. I want to be able to figure it out for myself. Really, the question that comes back more often to me is just asking, how are you? Which is hard because then you have to brace yourself for the answer and sit in, however painful it may be for them at the time. And sometimes it's not, however angry they may or may not be. And you have to ask that question to every single person, and every single person is going to have a different response.
Yeah. Nikki, what about you? What do you wonder?
It's hard to speak this out, honestly, because it scares me a little bit to speak it out. But usually my question is, what is it going to take? I don't want to know the answer to that, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I don't want there to be an answer to that. Honestly, I want the answer to be, it was this. I think what people don't always realize is that we have to relive this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And these are just the extreme cases. That is on top of everyday racism, everyday slightism. It's not like we're fine, every other day.
Right.
And then like, probably more than any other time, I've seen more non-Black people being like, no.
Yeah.
No, and we're not taking this anymore. And that's beautiful and it's awesome. And it's exactly what needs to happen. Why do you feel like you're not Black enough?
Right.
What does that?
For me, a lot of it has to do with culture, right? There's an ethnic heritage, which I have. That's part of like my DNA and my skin color. When it comes to culture, I just don't feel like I have a stake in that culture. There's parts of it that I don't understand and that I can't identify with, and some parts that even feel alien. So I'm like, well, how can I belong to a culture that feels alien to me? And I think it's something that is not uncommon for other members of my family, because some of them who are, I'm mixed, but some of my family is Black, but they are really, really light-skinned. Like some of my ancestors, like back in time when like...
They lived in Georgia.
Like maybe 1800s, early 1900s. They would pretend to be white because they could, and they would avoid a lot of the...
Right.
So maybe they dealt with these same kinds of issues, but I feel like I never really felt like I owned any kind of Blackness. Maybe that I borrowed it every once in a while. But I think, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, by the way. That's really interesting.
Yeah. The question I want to ask is to David, and then I want to ask the same question to Becca. And I want to ask you, how does it feel to be married to someone who's Black and be white when events like this happen?
If I'm honest, it feels closer to home than I want it to be. Not growing up around a whole lot of Black folks when I was a kid, as my world started including more Black folks, you just became more aware of what that reality is like for them. So it does hit home a little closer than it probably does to somebody who's just out in the Midwest surrounded by folks who look just like them. They don't have to worry about how close to home the next event might be. So, I mean, you feel it, but you still don't fully understand. I'll never understand fully. But I do have a bird's eye view. And at times like this, it makes me incredibly sad.
How do you feel being married to someone who's half Black?
Or half white.
Or half white? A biracial person. How do you feel knowing that and then hearing about these kinds of events?
Because I think of your maybe upbringing, I don't necessarily feel the impact of the events as much over the last couple of years as you've started to process more what that means for you. I think on one hand, I feel a little bit more responsibility to help defend the cause. And now that we have a child who, putting on her birth certificate, other was not something I necessarily expected when I
So
thought about
interesting.
myself as a mom.
Yeah.
But to put down that she's white wouldn't be true to you, her heritage.
Even though she looks white.
She looks she's got blue eyes. Like, I think as we continue to process together as a community, I feel like I have a little bit of a license and responsibility to help.
For me, the biggest question that I ask myself is, what can I do? How can I contribute to make the situation better? Because it's like you see so many posts on social media, you know, tons and tons of white people. This is wrong, but then it happens again. So it's like, well, does that even do anything?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I think that's my struggle. I think that's like, because I'm like, I could say something today, and I even had a post like written out, and I'm like, I deleted it because I'm like, I don't like. Is that then when it happens again, should I just copy and paste? You know, like,
Yep. I know.
like I don't want to do that.
I'm believing more and more that we have to do something, even if it is copying and pasting. Nikki, I really respect you in your ability to handle and guide these kinds of conversations in times of racial tension. And you're a safe place for a lot of people, including
Thank you.
us. And so, as white people, for the white people potentially watching this, for the white-ish people here,
I like that. White-ish.
I'm fully white,
I'm fully white.
although in my soul.
That's right.
what can we do? What are some practical things we can do?
Yeah. So here's some super practical things that you can do, okay? The first thing is that everybody needs to just start with themselves. I know it sounds kind of like, woo, you know, but seriously, you have to start with yourself and not be afraid to ask yourself the hard questions about who you are and how you think and the biases that innately come with you. And we all have them, all of us. And more importantly, not to judge it, because if you keep judging it, you don't want to look at it. So look at it as information for you in order to figure out then, okay, now how will I walk given what I know? Because then that will start to direct you on what the first step is, whether that's, you know, do you need to learn something? Do you need to read something? Do you need to have a conversation with someone, right? But you have to start with, who am I? And who is the person I want to become? Like if you don't have a vision of who you want to become as a white culture ally or that kind of thing, you have no idea what you're even shooting for, right? So that's really, really important. Unfortunately, right now, social media is the way that people communicate. It just is. And I don't like that that's true because, you know, I don't want to be on social media all the time. I just don't. It's hard to just manage and the energy and, you know, everybody knows that, right? It's a lot of energy. However, it's the way people communicate. So that means that if anybody is vocal or posts a lot or that kind of thing on social media, to withhold during these times says something that I don't think people are trying to say. But what that looks like on the other side of it from other culture groups is, I see you every day, like on Facebook, right? I see you every day on Facebook, and now I haven't seen you for 4 days. Where are you?
Yeah.
Right? And so, again, it's not what anybody's trying to put out there, but that's what it communicates. And that's what people talk about with the silence. That's where people are going to look. And I don't like that that's true, but it is. And it's what you said, Becca, before, is there is no right way. There's no manual. You know, there's no manual for any of this. And so just say something and use whatever. Like if you don't have, like maybe you're not on Facebook. Maybe you don't have Instagram. Maybe you're like, that's not me. Great. What else do you have? That's the question. what else do you have at your disposal that you can communicate something really important to the people around you? Maybe you write a blog, maybe you have a YouTube channel, right? Whatever it is, use it. So there's that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you think it's okay to say, I don't get it, but I'm sorry, or I don't get it, but this sucks,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's what's true.
Yeah.
And just know this, if you're white and you're afraid of saying, I don't know, you got to know that the non-white people around you, they already know you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So then to say like, I don't know, but to just be like, I don't know, but I'm learning. That is one of the most beautiful phrases you can ever say. Because your friends just want to know that you're present and relevant with what's going on in the world. So that's a low-hanging fruit, right? Use your social media, use whatever you got, blogs, whatever, right? Yeah, just use it. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, when I was 6, you know, like, no, it doesn't have to be like a paragraph. Just be you. Like, just do what you would do anyway. You know, I'm thinking about you guys, like, post a beautiful picture of your child and, you know, say something about that. It's just the same thing of you just being you, right? So just a place of encouragement there. Here's the second thing is think about, this is the most powerful thing. Think about places where you have influence and you have power. And you have privilege. And that's a loaded word, but hopefully you know my heart by now, where you have influence, where, you know, there are people that you see on TV that are suffering, and, you know, those people in neighborhoods that might never get to the tables that you get to sit at, right? That may never be in front of the people that you get to be in front of, right? Think about those spaces. Look at your spaces and see where are these monocultural spaces and start to poke.
Can we define monocultural for them?
Yeah, so a very easy space of monocultural would be if you look around and everybody either looks exactly like you with regards to race and culture, or even age, come from, socioeconomic status, all of that. If you're sitting around a table or in a group or whatever, and everybody looks the same, it's time to poke. Particularly if you're the one that knows how to poke, right? Maybe it's literally just bringing it to the attention. Hey, how can we get some more voices around the table here, right? That's a good way to start. So look at the places where you have leadership and influence and poke, because that is really powerful. The third thing is most of the time we need people who are allies and bridge builders. We need those people to go talk to people within their own people groups who are not. Like that is a powerful thing. Because, you know, like, I'm making this up, by the way, but your friend Amy, like if you have a friend Amy who, you know, is like out there with regards to all this, I'm never going to talk to Amy. And Amy probably doesn't have anybody in her world that looks like me. Right? So you having access to Amy, and it's a random Amy, right? But, you know, you talking to Amy has and carries more weight than me trying to figure out, how do I go talk to Becca's friend Amy, you know? So just having an awareness of that, and not being okay anymore with family dinners where people say little racist things, but you really don't want to poke it because you still want to be invited back. It's not okay. And so can we all of us find our bravery and our courage in those moments to say, no. And it doesn't have to be mean. Just, can I offer you a different insight? Right? So those are 3 very, very tangible things to do. And they're the hardest to do because they look easy. And so therefore, most people don't do them. Well, certainly that won't work. No, it can't just be that. No, it actually is that easy using what is right in front of you. But you have to believe that there is power in these very day-to-day momentary things. That is what changes culture. It's not, you know, it's not always the big things that happen, you know. It's every single day making choices to be a bridge builder, to help bring more beauty and light and insight into the world. But you have to take the first step. Be faithful in the small things first.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Thank you all for being willing to share your heart and be vulnerable. I just want to close with a couple thoughts, and one of those is that it's not wrong to be white. I think it can be easy for some people to feel like, well, it's just people are mad at me for being white.
Right.
And it's not wrong to be white. You know, part of me is white and my wife is, you know.
And I've thought that.
You thought that it's wrong to be white?
Yeah, I've thought that. Like,
There's lots of people
like
that think
I
that.
don't, I'm white, so I don't have, it's almost like I don't have a voice
Right.
because
Right.
I'm white. And like, I don't understand what they're going through, so I don't know what to do.
But here's what you do know. Let me just say this. Here's what you do know. You do know pain.
Yeah.
And everybody knows pain. And you don't have to have the exact experience that someone else has, because we never will. I don't know what it's like to be white, right? I can never identify with that. Right. But I know what pain feels like. I know what joy feels like. I feel it. We all know all of the human emotions. And so I think if we can start there, and then move forward in the conversations from that starts to give us some confidence.
One quick thing kind of online with that is I know that some folks feel like they don't know enough about something to speak into it. And what you have to realize as a white person is that you're never going to be an expert in this. You will perpetually be a student. But that should be encouraging, because that means that you have it in you to learn more, and there will always be more to learn about it by asking questions, by reading more, and just learning. You know, you will always be a student in this, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. So if you take away one thing, or maybe two things from this video, it's one, it's not wrong to be white, and two, you have something to contribute to the conversation, and we need your voice. We need you to do the things that Nikki just talked about. So I want to thank you guys so much just for being willing to be part of this, being willing to be vulnerable. I really hope that we kind of answered some people's questions, gave some people, I know that it gave me some ways forward. And I really just thank you for being willing, Nikki and David and Becca. And Royce. To be part of this conversation. And I want to thank you guys for watching this video. That's a step. If you pressed play and you watch this video, that's a step that you took. That means something. And thank you. If you're interested in learning more, like David just talked about, Nikki has got a ton of fantastic content. She has a weekly culture podcast, and she also has a YouTube channel, and she has an awesome course, which is 10 ways to, what is it?
Respond.
She also has an awesome course, which is called 10 Ways to Respond to Racially Fueled Events. And I'll link all of those in the description. You should definitely follow her. Definitely check her out. She's doing awesome stuff. And we've got a lot of awesome stuff coming up in the future, some great marriage and family content. So be sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we post. And we'll see you guys next time.